Please know that some of the material in this program may include views or recommendations of third parties which do not necessarily reflect the views of Manatee Educational Television or indicates its commitment to a particular course of action. METV cannot be held liable for the accuracy of information that has been provided by third parties.
Welcome to Lifelines. I'm Larry Linehauser.
And I'm Robert Day. We're here at the Duet Park, and we're going to be talking to Danny Smith with the Conservation Lands Management and Ed Flowers of the Department of Forestry. Now, first of all, what are your titles? You are?
Conservation Lands Division Manager.
Okay, good.
Ed,
and Lair?
your title?
I'm District Manager for the Maca River District.
Okay.
Very good.
So we have two district managers here, and the crews that are behind us setting these controlled fires. Why is it important to have these controlled burns?
Two reasons. One is it removes the fuel hazard that would build up, and the second, and equally important, is to manage these ecosystems the way nature would have managed them.
So basically, between lightning and other natural causes, primarily lightning, I would think, these fires would burn anyway, and this way you're just making sure that nature runs its course and gets rid of all that undergrowth.
That's right. We're doing it in a controlled manner rather than just depending upon lightning to wreak havoc on us.
Yeah, and I noticed, especially during the summer months, that's something that can happen quite a bit. Now, Department of Forestry, Larry asked them about their role in all this.
Ed, what is your role in this? It's because we're on Duet Park here, but what do you guys do around the county that it would be in similar fashion?
Well, basically, the Division of Forestry is a state agency responsible for all outdoor burning in the state of Florida. To be able to do these burns, you actually have to get an authorization from the Division of Forestry. It helps us to know where they are, who's doing them, and so we don't send people out to a controlled burn that mistakenly has a wildfire.
Which has happened in the county quite a bit with all the development going on. They'll say there's a brush fire out somewhere out east and it's a new subdivision clearing or it's a controlled burn. Do you pretty much coincide with his position as far as it's like an essential part of what you're doing, like what nature would normally do, and you're kind of sort of assisting the process?
Yeah, that's correct. Most of the vegetation that is in Florida over the millions of years has developed where it actually needs fire to do the best that it can to provide the things for the wildlife and the other environmental considerations that are out here. A lot of these plants out here won't perpetuate themselves without fire.
Now, as Ed said, these homeowners, particularly in new developments like Larry was talking about, they might have a controlled burn next to them in this rural interface area, and they see smoke or fire or whatever that brings concern to them. They end up calling 911. So what would you like to tell those homeowners as far as this is something that could actually help them out long term?
Well, I don't want to tell them not to pay attention to that smoke when they see it, because there's a chance it may not be a prescribed burn or something productive. I would like to tell them, though, that prescribed fire is, we're doing this in a manner that is professional. Staff has been trained to do so, and safety is our number one concern.
Well, and you mentioned safety. I noticed everybody's geared out, and Larry's got hooked up with some equipment here, and you have some. First of all, what's this here? This high-tech looking piece of equipment.
Kestrel weather meter. It helps us monitor the weather as we're doing the burn. We can pay attention to wind speed, humidity, temperature, and a few other indicators of what's going on.
Yeah, because I imagine, with the wind, and that's something you definitely want to know as far as the dryness or the humidity and different things like that. And I also noticed some other personal protective equipment you have here, boots, pants. Is this any particular special material?
It's a Nomex material, which is fire retardant.
Okay, all right. And I know DOF has the same thing, only in a probably jumpsuit format.
We have both sides.
All right.
And you also have some other equipment that I've seen at some of these prescribed fires, as far as you bring in some larger pieces of equipment.
Yeah, we have basically what we use in the division are tractor plow units or bulldozers with fire plows on them to remove the vegetation. They're very efficient at what they do to stop wildfires. We also use them for prescribed burns to make sure they stay where they want to be. This fire today, we don't have any of our equipment out here. It's in a pretty safe place, and the weather is such that we don't need to tie that up in case it's needed somewhere else.
That's a good thing. I'd hate for the show to burn down by accident. It'd make a good show, but probably not good for us. So anyway, stay tuned. We'll be right back, and hopefully we'll get you some close-ups of the burn and see exactly what these guys do and how it affects the local environment. Stay tuned.
All right, we're here with Johnny McLeod. And Johnny, first of all, explain to me what you're doing here with this fire and this, was it called a drip torch?
Yes, sir. This is a drip torch. We fill it up about a quarter ways with diesel, with gas, and then the rest of the way with diesel.
That's just regular gasoline and diesel fuel.
Right, just regular gasoline and diesel fuel. It keeps it don't really explode on you. It just keeps a nice little steady drip of flame out of there. So what we're doing is we started down at the creek, and we have an unburned area behind us, so we have to be kind of cautious when we come up this way. Always we have people stationed in the back there, Marcus, with the buffalo. So if there's a potential spot over problem, as the wind. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this blacked in, so when we turn the corner up there, we have a wind shift. It don't run back on us and jump over on us and cause a spot over.
So as far as the buffalo, it's a water buffalo or water tank basically that he's got for contingency purposes?
Right. If we have, we've been real lucky using them. If we have a little spot over, we can get right on it and put them right out. Puts a lot of volume of water on it.
So it's not an actual buffalo. We're not grilling lunch here
No.
today. Okay, good. And as far as blacked in, you said is that where it's been burnt as opposed to green?
Right. That's where, as you can see, the backing fire, the wind's coming onto it and the smoke is going back, so it's just eating away, steady. And then you have your black area, so if you have something that comes running on you, it won't burn across your line.
Okay, so basically you're kind of setting a sort of burnt area so that you can kind of keep this under control, and you can keep it in the area that the area that you actually want to burn.
Exactly.
Okay, how many acres is this roughly here today?
This was probably about 100 and something acres, about
Okay.
150. Somewhere around about 150 acres.
Now, when you're looking at this, obviously the winds and that sort of thing, as we saw, they take it into account, and humidity. As far as the actual foliage and the plant material and all that, is that something you also take a look at when you're running along here with the torch?
Yeah, you just had to pay attention to your fuels and stuff. Like, we've had like 1.5 inches of rain yesterday, so that's why it's taken us a while to get this blacked off. And you have the moisture in there, these palmettos. The pine needles is what's helping us out now, and is getting established in the black area, so that's really helping us. Plus, with the wind shifting a little bit, we use that to our advantage.
Obviously, this is something the average homeowner does not want to do at all. These are trained professionals as far as setting these backfires. So if you do have large areas to maintain, again, don't do it yourself. This is something that the Conservation Lands Management folks and DOF, Department of Forestry, they do it all the time. And I think DOF actually will assist larger property owners, won't they?
Oh yeah. DOF is always good about helping out people if they can. You call them up and they'll help you out. And they've worked with us real well, helped us out tremendously. Anytime we call them, and if we think we have a scary situation, we call up Mr. Flowers and them. They send somebody out for standby,
Right.
and it's a big help. Big help.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks for showing us some of the tools of the trade, and we'll cut before Rich gets his foot burnt down here because it's getting pretty close. So we'll be right back.
What we're gonna do when Jacob gets down here and he starts lighting out,
Uh-huh.
we're gonna let him get ahead of us,
Okay.
and we'll all stagger just like this. He'll be going this way, and his fire be eating in like that.
Kind of like this.
That's right, to the right.
Okay.
And then the next guy's gonna start in the middle. Let Jacob get about 20 feet ahead of him,
Okay.
and then your fire just does this.
Kind of like a diagonal kind of thing?
That's right, because the fire will suck together.
Okay, cool.
we'll stay about 10 feet off of his fire line. I'll go about 10, 15 feet over, and then you stay about 15 feet off
Okay.
from me.
All right.
Once I get about 20 yards ahead of you, about 20 feet or so, then you come on with yours.
We're all headed straight
and then
that
we're
way?
going to head straight out towards the trucks.
Okay, good.
There you go, and you got a nice steady stream so it
This
comes
is
out.
Oh, and that's how you do it.
Right,
Okay,
and
good.
when you're walking,
Yes, sir.
when you're walking with Jacob, okay, what I'll do is I'll come over.
Okay.
We'll go over here about 15 feet or so.
As you can see here behind us, the updraft brought these line of fires together, and that's why you leave it to the professionals. We're back here with Ed Flowers, and first of all, if I see you run, then I'll run. But otherwise, we're just going to stick it out
That'll
here.
be good.
Okay, good, because you are the professional. All right. We talked earlier to Johnny about as far as larger property owners, can they actually get assistance from DOF if they want to do this kind of thing to their property?
Yes, we do provide assistance to landowners with their prescribed burning. All they need to do is give the office a call, let us know. We try and get them scheduled in. We do have limited people in the district,
Sure.
so it's kind of a first come, first serve. But we do provide that service. There is a cost involved.
Okay.
We usually charge this equipment time and labor.
Okay, so basically it's not astronomical as far as the cost then
No,
for that.
it's,
Okay.
actually pretty reasonable.
Right.
What we charge for our labor and,
Yeah.
and our equipment.
Yeah, because I imagine that actually in the long run it'd probably be cheaper to get that done in a controlled fashion than to say have something happen to that property. Then in an emergency format, you would have to respond maybe with more resources, cost more money than it would have to have them just pay you that small nominal fee right up front.
Right. If it's a lightning fire that gets started, there's no charge to the landowner. Of course, that's
Okay, right.
They have to be
Yeah.
responsible for the fire.
But as
to
far
be
as
charged for it.
to the taxpayers and everybody else, that
Right.
could run into potentially more money. So
Yes, it
basically
does.
you're mitigating it at that point.
Correct.
Right. And another form of mitigation is the this Firewise program. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I think it's clearing a defensible space around the structure?
Right. Firewise is a national program that's been really geared towards Florida. We have our own special publications and stuff that are coming out. They're not quite done yet, but they're on the way.
Okay.
And because we have such a large wildland-urban interface where people are moving out into the wildland from the cities.
All right.
They want to get back to nature and see what it's like out here at Duet. And but it does present a problem, especially because Florida does burn.
Sure.
And the areas out here need to burn. But if you build your house in the middle of it, then your house is in danger. And there are certain things, and probably the most important one is to provide defensible space,
Okay.
which is about 30 feet of cleared area
Okay.
as
good.
far as ground vegetation. And that's usually enough to make your house able to be saved if
Right.
it gets into a problem.
Because I noticed that the trucks from the various fire departments plus your equipment, they would need that room to get in there and maneuver around. Plus I guess, just lack of fuels at that point.
Right. If you keep the fuels down, it doesn't mean you have to clear all the trees and make a moonscape
Right.
in your yard.
Right.
A maintained lawn is good
Okay.
defensible space. It's drivable. We can get our equipment in there, and fire departments can maneuver in there and be able to defend your home.
Okay, good. And as far as I know, a lot of fire departments, the Duet Fire Department assists quite often if something, lightning strike or whatnot, should happen here in Duet Park. The Parish Fire Department, I know, responds. One of the things I've heard, and tell me if this is true or not, is that these fire departments with their brush trucks, they have these surplus 6x6 Army vehicles and whatnot, so they can get into some fairly remote areas. They've gotten pretty good at putting out these fires, almost too good, in that they put it out before it actually gets a chance to maybe burn some of that undergrowth, whatnot. Even though it wasn't necessarily a controlled burn to begin with, it's something that, since everything gets extinguished so much, it allows this undergrowth to grow up.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, we just can't let every fire that starts burn.
Burn, yeah.
They need to be done under controlled conditions,
Sure.
and it's best to do it through a prescribed burning program,
Right.
as opposed to just, maybe I'll get a lightning strike and we'll let it burn. As a state agency in charge of all outdoor burning and wildfires, we're not going to just let it burn.
Let it burn, okay,
If there's a
good.
plan for it to allow it to burn,
Right.
then we may be able to work with you. But technically, if it's a wildfire, it's not authorized prescribed burn, we're going to put it
Gonna
out.
put it out. Better safe than sorry.
Right.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate it. And as far as the tools of the trade, I noticed that you have, in addition to your Nomex suit, what is this down here on your side?
What that is called a fire shelter.
Okay.
It's a safety device for last resort.
All right.
It's a national standard that that the division has adopted. It's not required by everyone who uses
Okay.
fire.
All right.
But we do require it on both prescribed burns and wildfires, and it's a safety precaution. It's
Is that metal?
aluminum,
Okay, that
it's
metallicized
aluminum,
looking tent
yeah.
that I've seen.
It looks like
okay.
a pup tent.
All right,
But what
good.
it does, if you've got a good place to deploy it, it really will save you from direct hot air.
Right.
It won't save you from direct flame.
Flame.
But if you've got a good open area you can deploy it, it will reflect radiant heat.
Okay,
Which is what
right.
usually gets folks first.
Right. Because I've heard that, as far as some of these fires, they burn pretty quick. And one of the fire chiefs I heard say was driving down a dirt road, I think it was like 30, 35 miles an hour, and basically the fire passed him on both sides. So as far as necessarily being able to outrun these fires, that doesn't always happen.
There's a lot that goes into fires, and most of the time, especially if you're on open ground, you may be able to outrun some of them, but you won't be able to outrun all of them.
Right.
And if you look behind you at the palmettos that's back there, I'd like anyone to go try and run through that very fast.
That's true.
So it's better to have your other options available.
Be able to. Well, good. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Joining me now is Marcus Campion, who is a Fire Ranger 1 out here. Marcus, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about this piece of equipment that you're sitting on and I'm standing next to?
Yeah, sure. This is a John Deere 7610, and I'm pulling a water buffalo with 500 gallons of water right here. It's equipped with the same sort of equipment you'd see on a regular fire truck. And what it's for instance, behind us is unburnt area.
Yes.
Is not in our prescription. It's not in our burn unit. If fire happened to go in there, I crank the tractor up, get the pump going, and put whatever fire out is out there.
How is the water dispersed out of the water buffalo?
It comes through the pump, out through the hose.
Okay,
Real
so
simple,
okay,
regular. Just
okay.
crank it up like a lawnmower engine, and
So you're
It'll
kind of
pump the
like a
water
fire
through.
enforcement person while you're doing these prescribed burns, and so you make sure the fire stays in the contained area where it's intended to be.
exactly.
Joining me again is Keith Betcher. Keith, walk us through the process from what we saw earlier to what we have behind us now.
Basically, there are three things that are essential in Florida for habitats to maintain and to be healthy: water, sunlight, and fire. Fires in the plant communities in Florida have adapted to fire. A lot of them are dependent on fire, so fire is just as essential as water and sunlight to the plants out here. A lot of the plant communities and plants in Florida, without fire, would take over and outcompete other plants. So fire actually keeps the plants in check themselves. It actually opens those areas up also, so that it doesn't become a solid sheet of vegetation, so that the wildlife can actually meander through the areas, and it also sparks. It actually promotes the plants to put on new growth, which the plants or the animals will feed on. And
Well, I think there's a public perception, because we see the wildfires on national news, and oh my gosh, and then, yeah, they're bad, they're horrible, but they are only when they're endangering homes and life. They're basically doing what nature intended it to do, and this is kind of a microcosm of that, I would assume.
Absolutely.
But behind us now is a place that you guys burned about a month ago. Is that correct? And now it's starting to regenerate and grow again.
Right.
Is this pretty? Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
It's pretty common. A lot of people, when they see it on the news, they see the devastation of a wildfire. And what a wildfire is a wildfire goes through and sweeps through an area that hasn't been allowed to burn on its own. When a lightning strike fire or whatever happens, sometimes prescribed fire gets out, and it's accidents happen. But when a lightning strike fire occurs, it goes through and it clears the fuels out so that the fuels don't build up to a devastating level.
Okay.
We burn on a more regular basis than wildfires do, so our fuels are never built up that high. What was the other question?
Just the behind us is an area that's been burned about a month ago. So now this is regenerating, and this will allow the normal ecosystem to kind of stay in check. But essentially,
Absolutely.
the animals can roam, and no one species gets dominant over the other, and whether it be plant or animal. And that's the kind of the gist behind this whole deal.
Right. Speaking of the wildfire, the habitat you're looking at behind us is a scrub habitat, and it would remind you by looking at it that of a wildfire. This is a scrub that hasn't burned in years. We burned it for the first time about 3 years ago, and then we came back and just recently burned it. When we burned it the first time, it hadn't burned, like I said, in many years, so it was quite devastating. And you can see there's a lot of dead trees out there, but the healthy tree height of scrub oak trees, which is the ones that you see dead, those are entirely too tall. If fire would have been able to come through here and keep those down at a manageable level, they would never have been that high, so we wouldn't have had to kill them.
Okay.
So those oak trees are dead, but in a healthy scrub, they're not that tall.
Okay.
So if we were to walk through here right now, you would have scrub oaks popping up all over the place. They'll get to a manageable level, which is about 7 meters, which is healthy, and then we send fire through there again, and it maintains that. This habitat is essential for the scrub jay, the Florida scrub jay, and this is their foraging area and their nesting area. The reason we want these trees brought down is we're doing a major scrub jay restoration, and part of our scrub jay restoration is to go through and kill these oak trees, cut them down, bring them down to a lower level, because raptors, your hawks, your different types of hawks and birds of prey, will actually prey on scrub jay if they have an area to perch on. If the plants are kept at a manageable level, there's no place for the hawks and the raptors to perch and come and pick the scrub jays out of the air.
So by not having regular burns or natural burns, so to speak, whether it's prescribed by you or just takes over by lighting, the ecosystem itself would get severely out of balance. I think that's a perception that people have, that no, leave it alone, nature knows what it's doing. Well, nature does know what it's doing, but obviously sometimes nature, because of the way it's constructed and something like this, we can assist the process that we understand it well enough now to manage it better.
Absolutely. The idea is, get the land and let it manage itself, but, letting the land manage itself would be to let wildfires go. And with the urbanization of everything that we go, the mentality is put a wildfire out. So we have to come in and we have to put the fire in at a very controlled level.
All right, well, thank you very much, Keith, and we'll be back in just a minute, and we'll be covering another aspect of land conservation.
Thank you.
All right, Danny, now I understand that this is Duet Park, but things are changing name-wise for a lot of the properties and areas that the Conservation Lands Management, or CLM, manage?
Yeah, that's true, Rob. A lot of the areas we manage, Duet Park, Emerson Point, Rye Wilderness, Pine Island, they're not a traditional park in the sense that G.T. Bray Park is. They're not urban. They're more of preserve areas. Therefore, we're going to start referring to those areas as such: Duet Preserve, Rye Wilderness Preserve, Emerson Point Preserve, and so on.
So basically, a lot of these signages and the letterhead and things like that, over the course of time, we'll actually be seeing those changes.
Yes, that's correct. You will be seeing it change from park to preserve.
Now, Larry and I, we visit different places, and we think of, or a lot of people think of, parks and rec as and being involved in the parks. But that's more or less like the recreational kind of parks as opposed to these preserves. And what's one of the main functions of preserves as opposed to just a regular recreational park?
Well, the big difference is the recreational opportunities offered. At a park, you have traditional recreation, a lot of athletic sports, things like that. Here we have more passive recreation, hiking, bicycling, and things like that, kind of recreational activities that do not interfere with or disturb the natural plant communities that we're working to preserve at these locations.
Okay. Good.
So would you guys ever consider any off-road bike races? I mean, not dirt bike races, but like bicycle bike type?
Yeah, we would. We try and keep them in areas that are already impacted, and we have a trail network, but we do have some trails that are suitable, and we've talked with some folks and groups in the past about having some mountain biking events.
Because I know October's is Florida Greenways and Trails Month, and you've had last year an event out here. You had a mountain bike ride, again, in already areas that were impacted, and so it didn't affect the wildlife as much, but gave a great recreational opportunity to folks that wouldn't necessarily be able to do that sort of thing. So in between that, and we hear about ecotourism and all that, is that something that this adventure racing and everything else might be something more to look at in the future?
I think so. I think as the basic starts, I think we're going to see it grow. Increased hiking. We've had hiking clubs using the areas.
Okay.
And there's always folks that want to get out and stroll and view nature. I do think the bicycling events are going to take off, though. I was at a meeting recently where the focus tended to be on off-road biking a little more.
Okay. Yeah, I know sales-wise, the off-road bikes just far outsell the regular on-road bikes.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. I mean, this is nice to have an area you can still go and do things like that without having to worry about getting ran over by a urban vehicle, so to speak.
Absolutely. And even though we don't have the terrain and the hills, we do the sandy soils and do offer a challenge riding a bicycle.
Absolutely.
Now, there's places like you said, the hiking clubs. I know Sierra Club and Audubon and they're bird watcher kind of folks. Because of the habitat out here, there's a lot of wildlife that you wouldn't necessarily see, because people think of Florida, they think of the beaches and all that, but really, Florida, this is the natural Florida.
Absolutely. This is a lot of what most people don't get to experience, especially those folks that live in urban areas. We have a tremendous amount of wildlife out here: deer, turkeys, a lot of listed species such as the gopher tortoise, Florida scrub jay, and the whole suite of species that aren't so warm and fuzzy that go along with those.
And that scrub habitat that you burned, what is it, about a month ago, and Larry was talking to Keith about, that scrub jay actually needs that burn to live in that habitat.
Absolutely. The scrub jay is one of Florida's species that is rapidly disappearing, and along with other factors, lack of fire in those ecosystems is what's causing their demise.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, let's take a look over here and see what we got behind us. We got some nice picnic areas with some hibachis and stuff like that. So we'll look more at the preserve aspect rather than the park aspect in a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back. As we told you, we're now in the preserve area, so to speak. The whole area is a preserve. Let me rephrase that. But we're in a really neat picnic area. Danny, can you tell us something about the area we're in now?
Yeah, this is a picnic area that if folks just want to come out and have a little picnic for the day, they can do so. We have plenty of picnic tables, grills, a pavilion behind us that offers some shade. The check station, which you can't see, has restroom facilities. We also use this during our hunt program. We allow folks to camp here overnight.
Okay.
I will say from personal experience, that is probably one of the cleanest restrooms in the entire county, is the one here at this check-in station. And I'm not just saying that. That's a lot to be said. You wouldn't think in a remote area like this, but it's a very nice facility out here.
Thank you.
All right. So if people wanted to reserve the pavilion, is it like you usually have to call the number and reserve it, or is it first come, first serve?
We do it on a first come, first serve, and it's pretty much one of those things I can almost guarantee anytime you want to use it, it's going to be available.
All right. That's good to know. So if you're looking for a place to go that's different than normal, come out here and give this place a look. It's great. It's very well run by some top professionals, and there's a lot of stuff to see of the real and natural and old Florida that's kind of away from the normal tourist stuff. Rob?
I'd like to thank all the folks, Danny Smith included with Conservation's Lands Management, and also the Division of Forestry, or DOF, for all their help on today's show. And remember, safety is your lifeline.
Let's go get some deer.
Okay. Or maybe some hiking.
Yeah, hiking.
Okay,
Not
that's good.
camping.